The gunfire faded as suddenly as it began. The man pulled Lily close, shielding her with his coat as officers rushed past the windows. "Keep your head down," he murmured. His voice carried a strange calm, the kind that only comes from living through storms. When the chaos eased, she noticed the faint bruise on his temple, the faint trace of blood on his sleeve. He looked like someone who hadn't slept in days. "Are you hurt?" she whispered. He shook his head, eyes scanning every exit. "No. But they can't know I'm here." Lily frowned. "Who can't?" He hesitated, then forced a smile, the kind people wear when they are hiding something. "Let's just say, I'm not supposed to be seen." Minutes later, the cafe lights flickered back on. People were crying, calling loved ones, police asking questions. But when the officer approached their table, the man gently placed his hand over hers. "Play along," he said softly. "You're my wife. We were celebrating our anniversary when it happened." Lily stared at him, caught between fear and some inexplicable pull. His eyes weren't just desperate, they were pleading. She nodded. "Okay." The officer leaned in. "Are you both all right?" "Yes," Lily said, her voice steadier than her heart. "My husband," she glanced at the stranger, "saved me. He covered me when the shot started." The officer smiled faintly. "You've got yourself a brave man." The stranger only gave a small nod. His jaw was tight, but his hand never left hers. When the questioning ended and the crowd thinned, Lily exhaled shakily. "Who are you really?" He met her gaze. "Someone trying to make things right." She wanted to ask more, but the distant wail of sirens cut through the night. "Thank you," he said finally, "for trusting me." "I don't even know your name," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Maybe that's safer, for now." The next morning, Lily found him again, sitting in her diner booth before opening hours. A newspaper hid his face, but she knew it was him. The same dark jacket. The same watchful stillness. "You shouldn't be here," she murmured, setting down his coffee. "I had nowhere else to go," he said quietly. "They're still looking for me." "Who's they?" He sighed. "People who don't care what gets destroyed in the crossfire." He looked up at her, and something in his expression softened. "You helped me when you didn't have to. I won't forget that." Lily hesitated. "You scared me yesterday. I thought." "I know." He lowered his gaze. "I never meant to drag you into this." She studied him, the way his hands trembled slightly around the cup. He looked less like a threat, more like someone carrying too much guilt. "You saved my life," she said. "That counts for something." For the first time, his eyes warmed. "You really believe that?" "I wouldn't be here if I didn't." A flicker of pain crossed his face. "Then I hope you keep believing, even when you find out who I am." That night, Lily found a small folded note left under her door. "If anyone asks, we never met." But scribbled below, smaller, almost as an afterthought. "Thank you, for pretending." Her heart twisted. She didn't know why she cared so much, but she did. Maybe because in that brief chaos, they'd both been something they weren't, husband and wife, safe in a lie that felt truer than the world outside. If you were there in that moment, what would you have done? Be honest, comment your answer below. And if words fail you, just hit like to prove that compassion still matters. Days turned into weeks, and Lily tried to push the stranger out of her mind. But every time she served coffee to a table near the window, she half expected to see him sitting there again, calm, unreadable, hiding behind a folded newspaper. Instead, life returned to its slow rhythm. The cafe reopened after repairs, her co-workers laughed again, and the city went back to pretending it wasn't broken. But Lily couldn't. She still replayed that night, the way he'd looked at her like she was his last chance at normal. Then, one evening, as the last customer left, the door creaked open. Rain poured behind him, drenching his black jacket. It was him. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered, heart hammering. "I didn't come to stay," he said softly. "I came to warn you." Her breath caught. "Warn me?" He looked around, lowering his voice. "They think you know me. That you might have helped." "Helped you do what?" He hesitated, then his tone darkened. I'm not supposed to exist, at least, not publicly. I was undercover in a case involving people who'd rather erase witnesses than arrest them. Lily stepped back. You're saying they might come after me? Yes. And I can't protect you if I'm seen. She swallowed, fear crawling up her throat. Then why come at all? His gaze softened. Because you didn't deserve to get hurt because of me. Lightning flashed through the window, throwing both their faces into sharp relief, his eyes hollow but sincere, hers trembling yet steady. I can disappear, he continued, but I need you to forget everything. The name I never told you, the night at the cafe, even the lie we shared. But Lily shook her head slowly. You saved my life. I won't forget that, even if I should. He smiled faintly, sadness curling at the edges. You're stubborn. I've been called worse. A short laugh escaped him, quiet, tired, but real. Lily, he murmured, finally saying her name. You made me remember I was still human. And then he turned to leave. Wait, she said, voice cracking. If you're in danger, let me help you. He paused at the door, water dripping from his coat. You already did. The bell jingled softly as he disappeared into the rain. That night, Lily couldn't sleep. Every sound outside felt heavier, every shadow closer. Around midnight, a sharp knock rattled her door. She froze. When she finally opened it, two men in grey suits stood under the flickering hallway light. Miss Harper? The taller one asked. Yes. We're from the bureau. We'd like to ask you a few questions about a man who might have visited your cafe last month. Her pulse raced. A man, she repeated carefully. Tall, mid-30s, short dark hair. Goes by the alias Evan Cole. Lily hesitated, gripping the doorknob so tightly her knuckles went white. No, she lied. I don't think I know anyone by that name. The agent's eyes lingered a moment too long. If he contacts you, report immediately. He's considered dangerous. When they left, Lily sank to the floor, shaking. Dangerous. The word echoed until she couldn't tell if she believed it. Because deep down, she didn't see a criminal. She saw the man who had shielded her with his own body, who had said pretend not to deceive, but to save. She spent hours staring at the note he'd left, tracing the letters of thank you, for pretending. And for the first time, she wondered if the pretending had ever really ended. Have you ever had someone help you when no one else would? Write yes and tell me their name. Maybe gratitude can travel further than we think. 3 days later, Lily's phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Don't go to the cafe today. Her breath hitched. No name. No explanation. But she knew who it was. She peered through her apartment blinds. The street below was strangely quiet. A black SUV had been parked across from her building since morning, windows tinted too dark for sunlight to touch. Her hands trembled as she texted back, Evan? What's happening? No reply. Just silence. By noon, she couldn't sit still. Against every instinct, she grabbed her coat and headed out, eyes scanning every corner. The cafe door swung open to the sound of clinking cups and cheerful chatter. For a moment, she let herself believe everything was normal. Until she saw them, the same two agents from before, sitting near the window, pretending to sip coffee. Her stomach sank. They were watching her. She forced herself to smile at the barista, pretending not to notice as the agents exchanged a subtle nod. Her mind spun. Don't go to the cafe today. He'd been warning her. She slipped into the back room, phone clutched tight. Her pulse raced. Think, Lily, think. The back door creaked open. She gasped, turning sharply, and there he was. Evan. He looked rougher this time. Stubble darkened his jaw, exhaustion shadowed his eyes. You came anyway, he whispered, half angry, half relieved. You texted me. I didn't know what else to do. You shouldn't have come here. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. They're setting you up. They think I passed something to you, evidence. Did you? She asked. He hesitated, then nodded. A drive. Small. Silver. You wouldn't even know you had it. Lily blinked. Then where is it? I hid it where they'd never look. His gaze softened. Somewhere safe. Safe where? He didn't answer. Instead, he looked around nervously, then reached into his jacket. We don't have time. You need to trust me one more time. Evan. Before she could finish, the back door burst open. The two agents stormed in, guns drawn. Federal Bureau. Hands where we can see them. Evan grabbed her hand, pulling her behind a storage shelf. Stay down, he hissed, firing a shot at the floor to draw their attention. Lily screamed as splinters flew. The air filled with shouting, boots pounding, chaos swallowing everything. They dashed out the emergency exit, the rain pounding harder than before. Sirens blared in the distance. Evan's breath came in ragged bursts, but his grip never loosened. Why are you doing this? She cried. You could have run alone. He turned to her, drenched and shaking. Because I owe you more than a thank you note. They ducked into an alley, hiding behind a dumpster as the SUV screeched past. Steam rose from the wet pavement, wrapping them in mist. Lily could hear her heartbeat echo in her ears. Evan exhaled. I wasn't just undercover, Lily. I was investigating my own agency. They were laundering funds, framing people who refused to play along. I found proof, that's what's on that drive. She stared at him, stunned. So you're not a criminal? A faint, bitter smile touched his lips. Depends who you ask. You could have just told me the truth. If I had, you'd already be dead. Lily's voice cracked. And now? He looked away, rain dripping from his lashes. Now it's too late to keep you out of it. They waited in silence, the rain masking their breathing. Evan finally stood, adjusting his jacket. We move tonight. Once I upload the files, this ends. And if it doesn't? Then at least you'll know why I tried. Lily stepped closer, her hand brushing his sleeve. You don't have to do it alone. He met her eyes. You shouldn't have to choose between safety and conscience. Then don't make me. For a long moment, neither spoke. The city hummed around them, sirens fading like distant thunder. Finally, he nodded. All right. We do this together. Now it's your turn. Share one small good thing you did recently. Write it below so others remember that humanity still lives. Your story might light someone's path tonight. By nightfall, the city had turned into a maze of flickering lights and soaked alleys. Evan and Lily moved quietly through the back streets, blending into the rhythm of the rain. Every corner felt like a breath held too long, every passing car a shadow that might swallow them whole. They reached an old motel on the outskirts, peeling paint, buzzing neon, the kind of place where no one asked questions. Evan checked them in under fake names, his voice steady though his hands betrayed a faint tremor. Inside the dimly lit room, Lily sat on the bed while Evan spread out a small laptop, a flash drive, and a tangled web of cables. The glow from the screen washed over his face, making his exhaustion more human, his silence heavier. What's on that drive? She asked softly. Evidence, he murmured. Financial trails, call logs, names of people they've paid to look away. If this gets out, a lot of powerful people fall. And if it doesn't? He paused. Then we disappear. Lily's voice trembled. Evan, this isn't just about them anymore. They're hunting you, and me. He looked up, eyes tired but clear. I know. That's why I have to finish this. You mean we have to, she corrected, crossing her arms. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. You're impossible. Get used to it. He chuckled under his breath, the first genuine sound of warmth since the cafe. For a fleeting second, the tension broke, two people on the edge of the world sharing a fragile slice of normalcy. But then the laptop beeped. Connection lost. Evan cursed under his breath. They're tracking the upload signal. We have to move again. Before he could pack, headlights swept across the window. A black SUV pulled into the parking lot. Lily's heart leapt to her throat. They found us. Evan grabbed the laptop, yanked the cords free, and pulled her toward the back door. Stay behind me, he said, voice hard now, the tone of a soldier who'd done this before. They slipped into the night just as the motel door splintered open behind them. Shouts. Gunfire. The acrid scent of smoke filled the rain. They ran, cutting through alleys, breath ragged, feet splashing through puddles. When they finally ducked behind a fence, Lily collapsed, gasping for air. "Evan," she whispered, clutching his sleeve. "You're bleeding." He looked down, a graze along his shoulder, red blooming through his soaked jacket. "I'm fine," he lied. She pressed a trembling hand to the wound. "You're not." He winced but didn't pull away. "It's nothing I haven't felt before." "That's not the point." Her voice cracked. "You risk everything for people who might never know your name." "Why?" He met her gaze, rain streaking across his face like tears. "Because someone once saved me the same way. And I couldn't pay it back, only forward." The words sank deep. Lily's hands shook as she tried to tear a strip from her shirt to wrap his shoulder. "You talk like you don't plan on surviving this." He gave a small, pained smile. "If this ends the way I hope, it won't matter if I do." Her chest tightened. "Don't say that." "Lily." "No," she pressed harder on the wound, defiant tears mixing with the rain. "You don't get to die before you finish what you started." He didn't answer. Instead, he reached up, fingers brushing hers, a silent promise, or maybe an apology. The street light flickered above them, bathing their faces in trembling gold. For that heartbeat, the world paused, just two people in the storm, holding on because letting go would mean vanishing. If that moment hit you hard, leave a red heart hash. Sometimes one little symbol says what our hearts can't. The storm finally eased by dawn, but neither of them slept. Evan sat by the window of an abandoned bus station, reloading the drive and typing in silence while Lily watched him from across the room. His face was pale beneath the flickering light, jaw clenched, determination carved deep into his features. "How long until it's done?" she asked softly. 2 more minutes, he replied. "If the data uploads to the leak server, it's over. The world will know everything they tried to hide." Lily crossed her arms, pacing. "And if they trace it back to you?" He looked up. "Then I'll finally stop running." Something inside her broke at those words. "You don't mean that. You're not just data or proof, Evan. You're a person." He gave a faint smile. "You sound like my mother." Maybe she was right. He turned back to the screen, avoiding her eyes. "My mother died before I joined the agency. She told me once, if you ever have to lie for good, make sure you don't forget who you are." I didn't listen. Lily knelt beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe pretending to be my husband reminded you." Evan froze. Slowly, he looked at her, and for the first time, the steel in his eyes melted. "You have no idea what that meant," he said quietly. "That night, you saved me more than you know." Before Lily could reply, the laptop screen flashed upload complete. Relief swept across his face, but it lasted only a second. A red light blinked on the far wall. Lily frowned. "What's that?" Evan's expression darkened. "Tracking beacon. They're here." The sound of tires screeched outside. Doors slammed. Voices barked orders. He grabbed her hand. "We move. Now." They sprinted out the back, down an alley choked with garbage and broken glass. A spotlight swept overhead, and a voice boomed through a megaphone, "Evan Cole. You're under arrest. Drop your weapon." Evan shoved Lily behind a dumpster, his breathing ragged. "They'll shoot first. Don't come out until I say." "Evan. Promise me." She nodded, tears burning her eyes. He stepped out, hands raised. "It's done," he shouted. "The files are already online. Killing me changes nothing." Gunfire cracked the air. Lily screamed, clutching her mouth. She saw him fall to one knee, then crawl behind a car for cover. Everything blurred, shouting, smoke, sirens. She couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. She ran forward despite his warning, sliding to the ground beside him. "Evan, you're hit." He groaned, pressing a hand to his side. "Lily, you shouldn't." "Shut up," she snapped, hands trembling as she pressed her scarf to his wound. "You don't get to die, not now." He laughed weakly. "Still bossy." "Still alive," she shot back. Their eyes locked. For a moment, the chaos around them vanished. The world shrank to the sound of rain hitting pavement and the faint rhythm of his breathing. "Evan," she whispered, "you can still make it out. You can run." He shook his head slowly. "No more running. I'm done hiding behind lies." Tears streaked her cheeks. "Then let me carry one truth for you, that you weren't alone." He blinked, lips parting as if to say something, but the sound of boots grew louder. "Go, Lily," he said, voice hoarse. "Go before they—" She cut him off by grabbing his face, forcing him to look at her. "I'm not leaving you." He stared at her like she was both a miracle and a curse. "Why?" he whispered. "Because you're worth saving." He smiled faintly. "Maybe I finally believe that. Be honest, could you forgive after what they did? Type forgive if you could, or never if it would break you too deeply." Rain kept falling, washing the blood into the gutter like it was trying to erase what had just happened. The flashing red and blue lights painted the alley in broken color, sirens wailing, boots splashing through puddles. Evan's breathing grew shallow. Lily pressed against him, trying to block the cold wind with her body. "Stay with me, okay? Just breathe." He gave a weak grin. "You don't take orders well, do you?" "Not from dying men," she whispered fiercely. Two agents rounded the corner, weapons drawn. Lily raised her hands instinctively, shielding him. "Don't shoot. He's hurt." "Step away," one of them barked. Evan's voice cracked. "Don't listen to them. They'll finish what they started." The taller agent lowered his gun just a little. "Evan Cole, you're wanted for treason and theft of classified." "I leaked the truth," Evan interrupted, coughing hard. "And you'll never bury it again." The agent hesitated, his radio crackling with new orders. "Sir, the leak just hit the national feed. Every outlet has it." A silence hung heavy. Even through the chaos, Lily heard it, the shift. The power they'd feared, unraveling. The other agent cursed. "We're too late." Lily's heart pounded. "So what now?" she demanded. The taller one sighed. "Now we take him in, but it's over." Evan laughed weakly, the sound hollow but free. "Then I won." "Evan," Lily whispered, clutching his hand. "You're bleeding too much. You need a hospital." He looked up at her, eyes glassy but bright. "If I don't make it, promise me something." "No," she said instantly. "You'll tell me yourself." "Promise," he insisted, his voice fading. "Promise you'll live your life, Lily. Not hiding. Not pretending." Tears blurred her vision. "I already promised you once," she said through trembling lips. "And I'm not breaking this one either." He smiled faintly. "That's good." The agents called for an ambulance. One knelt beside him, pressing gauze to his wound. Evan's head tilted toward her shoulder, voice barely a breath. "You were never part of the plan, but you became the only part that mattered." Lily closed her eyes, holding him as the sirens screamed louder. Hours later, the hospital corridors smelled of antiseptic and hope. Lily sat outside his room, staring at the faint pulse monitor through the glass. He was alive, barely. Reporters flooded the streets outside. Headlines spun across every screen. "Undercover agent exposes corruption within bureau." "Whistleblower risked life to reveal truth." The world finally knew. But for Lily, the world had shrunk to one heartbeat on a monitor and a silent prayer between breaths. When the doctor came out, his face was calm but unreadable. "He lost a lot of blood. We've stabilized him, but the next 24 hours are critical." She nodded, gripping her jacket like it was armor. "Can I see him?" For a moment, the doctor said gently. Inside the dim hospital room, Evan lay pale, bandaged, the oxygen mask fogging with each fragile breath. Lily sat beside him, taking his cold hand in hers. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." The beeping machine filled the silence. She brushed a damp strand of hair from her face. "You said pretending saved you. But maybe it saved me too. Maybe we were both hiding until we met." For the first time, she allowed herself to cry, quietly, freely, without shame. Outside the window, the first light of dawn broke through the clouds. It was soft, golden, hesitant, like the world was apologizing for the night before. If you believe love still wins, comment in. Let's fill this section with hope. Maybe someone scrolling right now needs to see it. The days that followed blurred together. Reporters camped outside the hospital, government officials issued denials, and news anchors called Evan both a hero and a traitor. But to Lily, none of it mattered. She only cared about the faint rise and fall of his chest behind the glass wall. Every morning, she sat by his bed, reading aloud from a battered notebook she found in his coat pocket. It wasn't filled with mission codes or classified data. It was full of thoughts, letters never sent, fragments of regret. For every lie I told, I lost a piece of the truth I was trying to protect. One day, I'll tell someone my real name and not feel afraid. Each line cut deeper than the last. He'd been living in shadow so long, he'd forgotten what sunlight felt like. One evening, as the monitors beeped steadily, his eyelids fluttered. Lily froze. Evan. His lips parted, voice hoarse. Still here? A laugh escaped her, wet with relief. Barely. But yes. He managed a faint smile. You didn't give up on me. Someone had to make sure your story had an ending, she said softly. He turned his head toward her, eyes half open but warm. Then make it a good one. I plan to. For a while, they just sat in the hush of machines and moonlight. The storm had passed outside, leaving the air fresh and clean. Evan's breathing steadied, his pulse stronger now. I saw it, he whispered. The truth spreading. People sharing it. For once, it mattered. It did, she said, squeezing his hand. You did. He closed his eyes, tears slipping free. Then maybe I wasn't just pretending. Lily leaned closer. No. You were human, the bravest kind. Weeks later, when Evan was strong enough to walk, the hospital discharged him quietly under a new name. No cameras, no agents. Just Lily waiting outside with 2 cups of coffee and a quiet smile. He stopped beside her, looking up at the sunrise. I guess this is what freedom looks like. Feels smaller than I imagined, she teased. He chuckled. That's because you're in it. They walked side by side down the street, no destination, just the sound of traffic and the promise of normalcy. As they crossed an intersection, a newspaper stand caught her eye. The headline read, Undercover Truth, the agent who changed everything. Evan glanced at it, then at her. I don't want to be that headline. Lily smiled. Then don't. Be the man who bought coffee every morning and tipped too much. He laughed softly. I think I could live with that. They sat at a park bench overlooking the river. The world was still loud with noise and judgment, but here, it was quiet, just the wind, the water, and 2 people who had seen too much of both darkness and grace. Evan's voice was gentle when he spoke again. Do you ever regret it? Pretending, she asked. He nodded. She thought for a long moment. No. Because sometimes pretending is the first step toward finding what's real. He smiled, eyes soft with something like peace. Then I'm glad you pretended to be my wife. Lily met his gaze, her heart full but steady. Maybe it wasn't pretending after all. He reached for her hand, fingers intertwining easily. No lies, no missions, no fear left between them. The sun broke through the clouds, casting warm light over their joined hands. For the first time, both of them stopped looking over their shoulders. If this story moved you, don't scroll past quietly. Tap like, not for me, but for the soul who carried this pain and still stayed kind. One click can be your way of saying, I felt you. Spring arrived quietly, almost shyly, soft rain tapping rooftops, the scent of blooming jasmine drifting through the city. Months had passed since that night of chaos, yet it lingered in small ways. The way Evan still looked over his shoulder before crossing a street, or how Lily sometimes woke in the middle of the night, expecting sirens. But life had found rhythm again. They'd moved to a quieter town by the coast, where the sea spoke in waves instead of whispers and no one cared about what names they'd used before. Lily opened a small cafe near the pier. She called it Pretend. Locals often asked about the name, and she'd just smile and say, because sometimes pretending is how real things begin. Evan worked mornings with her, fixing shelves, greeting customers, blending in like any other quiet man. Yet beneath his calm, Lily could still see the soldier, the man who had bled for truth and carried it like a secret scar. Sometimes, when the wind was strong and gulls cried over the ocean, he'd stand by the water's edge, silent, eyes distant. Lily would walk up beside him, sliding her hand into his. "Still looking for ghosts?" He smiled faintly. "Just making sure they're staying gone." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "You deserve peace, Evan. You earned it." "I'm not sure heroes ever do," he murmured. "You're not a hero," she said softly. "You're human. And that's better." He chuckled, the sound warm and real. "You always know what to say. I just remind you what you forget." They stood there for a while, two broken pieces that somehow fit. The sky burned gold over the horizon, and the sea stretched endlessly ahead, forgiving, infinite. That evening, as the cafe lights glowed against the sunset, a stranger entered. A woman in a dark coat, eyes sharp but kind. She ordered coffee, then paused at the counter. "You're Lily, right?" she asked quietly. "Yes. I used to work with him," the woman said, glancing toward Evan in the corner. "Tell him, thank you. The truth he risked his life for changed everything." Before Lily could respond, the woman placed a folded newspaper on the counter and walked away. Evan looked up as Lily approached. "What's that?" She opened the paper. The headline read, "Former Bureau officials convicted, whistleblowers' files confirmed authentic." Lily met his eyes, tears glimmering. "It's over." He nodded slowly, like a man waking from a long dream. "Then maybe we can stop pretending entirely." Lily smiled through her tears. "I think we already did." He reached across the table, taking her hand, and for a long moment neither spoke. The cafe buzzed softly around them, the smell of coffee, the laughter of strangers, the peace of being unnoticed. It was everything he'd once fought for, a quiet life where the truth didn't have to hide. That night, as they closed the shop, Evan locked the door and turned off the lights. "You ever wonder what would have happened if I'd never walked into that cafe?" he asked. Lily looked up at him, the soft glow of street lamps painting her face gold. "Then someone else would have made your coffee. But I don't think anyone else would have saved you." He smiled, pulling her close. "I used to think pretending was weakness. Now I know it was the only way to find something real." She rested her head against his chest, hearing his heartbeat steady and strong. "And what's real now?" "This," he whispered. "You. Us. The truth we built after all the lies." Outside, the sea breeze carried the smell of salt and promise. Inside, 2 cups sat unfinished on the counter, steam rising and fading into the night, like memories finally learning to rest. And maybe that's what life really is, not a perfect ending, but a series of moments where people choose kindness over fear, truth over silence, and love over pretending. If you felt that, remember to share it forward. Someone out there still needs a reason to believe that even after all the pain, love can still win. Sun with small cloud hash.